Oh boy, if you ask me, I don't know why that's still on there. I was shocked with some of the news that was going down today, but we're going to get into it all right now. We're going to look at the finalized practice squad. We're going to look at the Trey Sermon waiving, the releasing, and we're going to analyze it all. And we also have a special guest going to be on the opposite side of the fire intro video. Let's see who it's gonna be. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Look who it is. Look who's home. Probably not at all the surprise you were expecting. But again, I do want to introduce you guys to the guy that I've been talking about for some time on this channel. This right here is Walker Graham. First day home from the NICU after 87 days in the hospital. Again, just wanted to bring him on, say what's good. You talking to the mic yet? You talking to the mic yet? I had to bring him on. We had to say what's up. You guys know it's been a long ride for my family, my wife, me, my kids. Is that your daddy talking? Are you making your first appearance? Yeah, you are. Love it. I just wanted him to come on, say what's good. He's looking at me right now like, what the hell, man? I love it. But I just wanted to say what's up, say hello. Got all the babies crying in the background right now. But I'm going to do a quick pass off, and then we're going to get into all the football news. Give me one. All right, we're back. Just wanted to say what's good. It's a big day for us. But let's get into the real news of the day. Let's get into the 49ers. Let's get into right away. Let's jump in. The 49ers today waived Trey Sermon. Can you believe it? Can you actually believe it? Shout out to all the squad. Appreciate you guys, man. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the good sports. Shout out to all the homies showing love. Let me check. Let me read the comments real quick. Let's see. Appreciate you guys. Had to bring the guy on. Of course, you guys have been a big support throughout all of this. Obviously, the SDS, we talk about it, family, community, all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to shout you guys out. Appreciate you for riding with me. Again, 87 days in the NICU, first day home. But you already know the vibes. We got 49ers football to talk about. We got all kinds of stuff to get in here. So we're going to get into it. But again, have to shout out the Sourdough Squad. Appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. We got them home, baby. We got them home. Shout out all the SDS. You guys are the best. Definitely probably wasn't the surprise you were looking for. But hey, it's definitely a surprise. So let's talk about Trey Sermon. Literally, we were getting the kid into the car, coming home from the hospital, and boom, Field Yates drops the update that Trey Sermon has been waived because we understand that the 49ers added the offensive lineman, still trying to remember his name, from the Browns. And I believe it's his last name's Hance. You might have to help me with his first name. But when we saw that he was claimed off waivers, I'm sure we all had the same question. The question was, well, who's going to be released? Thank you, Blake Hance. It's been an interesting day. But I'll take your word for it, Harris. So when we saw that come down, when we saw the 49ers claimed Blake Hance, we knew that there's going to be a corresponding roster move that followed. That roster move turned out to be Trey Sermon getting waived. So I want to look at it from this perspective. I think maybe they were trying like really, really hard to trade Trey Sermon. Obviously, you do not want to waive a third round pick. Like, you just don't want to do that. You don't want to take an investment like that where you traded up additional draft picks to go up and get Trey Sermon and waive him before year 2 even starts. So my kind of perception when you heard John Lynch say what he said about Trey Sermon on the broadcast before the Texans game, the third preseason of the game, it felt like he was pumping up. Felt like we even talked about it. It just felt like he was pumping up the stock by saying that Trey Sermon was one of the best players in 49ers training camp. Well, if he really was one of the best players in 49ers training camp, which I happened to see with my own eyes, I wouldn't have said that he was one of the best players in training camp. However, I understand why he's saying it. Felt like it was a move to try to maybe get someone to bite on a trade. Also, to reinforcing that they were willing to keep him on the active roster. Maybe that would also help kind of aid someone to come in and actually come and trade for him. Or once all these cuts were made, maybe someone would like to come and trade for him. I don't think a trade ever materialized. Again, I'm purely speculating. I have no idea if they were actually trying to trade him or actually trying to sell him. But ultimately, the San Francisco 49ers land on waiving Trey Sermon. And I don't know. We talked about it all offseason. Jordan Mason was the better back. We saw it in training camp. We saw it in preseason. All of us saw it. You could just tell that Jordan Mason had this different gear that Trey Sermon didn't have, but I personally didn't think that the 49ers were going to cut and let go of Trey Sermon just this early for those simple reasons of the draft capital that they invested into him. They said, you know what? We're not going to continue to, sink in more time and effort into, one of these players that we invested heavy draft capital into if it's not going to work out. Obviously, that also has to send a message to the rest of the team. Like, again, third round pick doesn't matter. Third overall pick, trade a ton of assets, multiple first round picks. You bring back Jimmy Garoppolo. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what was given up to get said player. But once you get into that building, you have to perform and you have to do what you need to do to build confidence within the coaching staff and the organization that you can get it done. And if they don't believe you can, they're either going to let you go or they're going to bring in insurance policies. So par for the course. Par for the course. The 49ers just walked away. They just walked away from Trey Sermon. Again, felt like he made it through, but they ultimately let him go. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Let's talk about some other moves that went down today. Of course, the 49ers were able to finalize the practice squad, as you guys all know. So let's talk about some moves, and then we'll review the practice squad overall. So The 49ers obviously claimed Blake Hance off of waivers from the Browns. That triggered the waiving of Trey Sermon. We already knew that Curtis Robinson and Jimmy Ward were headed for injured reserve and, again, short-term IR. They should be eligible to return after the Rams game week 4. But in their place, they sign Tyler Kroft and defensive lineman Jordan Willis to 1-year deals. So those are the moves that were made today in regards to the active roster and how that all played out. This is what it looked like for the final practice squads. That shout out Steph Sanchez for putting this tweet together. So defensive lineman Alex Barrett. I like that. I've talked highly of Alex Barrett for quite some time. I like him on the practice squad. I feel like that's a perfect place for him. They keep Tashawn Gibson. Obviously, Tashawn Gibson is a guy who could step in for Jimmy Ward, potentially. I would imagine the 49ers are going to rely on first Talanoa Hufanga, Tarvarius Moore, and George Odom. But also Tashawn Gibson is one of those guys that you can elevate on game days from the practice squad. The 49ers keep Alfredo Gutierrez on the international designation, whatever that is. They're able to carry an additional player on the practice squad because of that. So that is no surprise that Alfredo Gutierrez is back. They bring back safety Taylor Hawkins, undrafted free agent out of SDSU. I like that. I think Taylor Hawkins is a guy who can develop into potentially at minimum, a role player. Can he develop into a starter? We'll see. But that's what the practice squad is for. But I do like Taylor Hawkins coming back around. They bring back Quantrez Knight. We like Quantrez Knight. Quantrez Knight was an undrafted free agent out of UCLA. He shows a lot of, let's use some buzzwords, grit, nastiness, fire. He's a fiery guy. Wasn't perfect, but he was able to do just fine. Just fine. And I think landing on the practice squad is a good time. Good thing for Quantrez Knight, because I think ultimately he could be a guy that sees playing time this year if an injury occurs. And who knows? We could see him on the field for the 49ers. Wide receiver Tay Martin. They bring back Tay. Very happy about that. I like Tay Martin a whole lot. I really do think Tay Martin could be one of those developmental pieces. Again, when we're looking at some of these guys that they've kept on the practice squad, I think we can all agree that there are some pieces on here that, like, I get it, maybe not now, especially with how the roster stacks, but Tay Martin to me is a big-bodied wide receiver, can run crisp, clean routes, has very, very good hands. He can do so many different types of things. I really do like Tay Martin. I was thinking that Tay Martin could be in competition for the 6th wide receiver spot, but guess what? They didn't even keep 6. They did not keep 6. As you can see, Malik Turner is in the photo. They didn't even keep him. He came back down to the practice squad as well. But again, the 49ers can elevate 2 players per game from the practice squad. And I think Malik Turner is a good opportunity to be one of those guys, just partially because he seems to be a good special teamer. So I like the additions of those 2 wide receivers. They also bring back a 3rd wide receiver, Willie Snead. I don't think Willie Snead showed me a whole lot of anything this training camp. However, I do know what Willie Snead has done in his past, and I do like what he's done in his past. And I think that's enough to feel okay with carrying Willie Snead on the practice squad. Obviously, he was a late add to training camp. Really hard to just get acclimated and go out and do a whole lot of anything when you don't have a rapport with the quarterback. You're learning the playbook, all those types of things. So Willie Snead on the practice squad, I could live with it. I could live without it. It's not that big of a. It doesn't move the needle a whole lot for me. But he's a veteran. He's done it before, and I appreciate his career up until this point. So we got him back. The big one that fans were waiting for the return of 49ers offensive lineman Jason Poe. I think it was a bit of a shocker to some, myself included, especially if you looked at my roster projection. Now, they ultimately kept 9, which is what I thought they were going to do, but they pulled a fast one on us. Again, it felt like up until this point, there was so much hype and momentum behind Jason Poe, a guy who, again, leading into some of the last practices of training camp, was getting reps with the ones next to Trent Williams. He was getting up there. And when I hear that, I'm like, well, that must mean they think highly of him, right? Like, if Jason Poe is if he's working in there, splitting reps with Aaron Banks, I'm like, well, hot damn. Maybe Jason Poe's going to make this roster. Well, he didn't. And they kept the 6th-round pick out of Fordham, which I will add, I like. I don't not like it because I believe Nick Sakel had really elevated his game later on through preseason and through camp. I think he had a rough go to begin with, and you could see it. You could see Zakel was having some rough moments early in camp. But the best things that we saw from Nick Zakel was him improve, and he got better, and he cleaned it up, and he wasn't giving up so many egregious losses or anything like that. He really calmed down and was able to get better. So the hype went towards Poe, but I understand why they opted for Nick Sakel over Jason Poe. I also believe they think and believe that Nick Sakel, based on his measurables, his size, and the fact that he was a 6th-round draft pick, he could be claimed by someone else. I do believe they bet on potentially the size of Jason Poe and the fact that he was undrafted and just, thinking they could get him back on the practice squad. I think I'm okay with that. And I love that Jason Poe is back on the practice squad. Again, he's going to be able to help the 49ers starting defensive line on scout team. But more importantly, he will be able to continue to refine his game against the starters. So as you guys know, when the 49ers get into game week and game prep, the starters don't face each other all the time, at least from my understanding. The way that I understand practices to be broken out is you get first team offense versus scout team defense, and then you get first string defense versus a scout team offense. Jason Poe would be a scout team offensive line. That's kind of how I see it playing out at this point, but that will allow him to get even better and work continually against the starters. Akeem Spence, defensive lineman, added to the practice squad. Don't mind it. Didn't think, I thought he had his moments, but then again, he just felt like a guy too. At the end of the day, you need defensive line depth and especially defensive linemen to play on the interior. So overall, not bad. I get it. Makes sense. Keaton Sutherland, I think we all saw some of the struggles that Keaton Sutherland had, but clearly they like him. And so they bring him back to the offensive line. Obviously, he played second string center when Daniel Brunskill went out. But I think one of the biggest W's of the entire practice squad was bringing back Kemoko Turay. Being able to bring back Kemoko Turay, I think was a huge W for the 49ers. Uh, to me, he was definitely roster worthy. He could have made the active. I thought he would have been worthy of making the active. Again, we talked about the success that he had in training camp. You saw what he was capable of in preseason. He's a quality defensive lineman. Now, starting caliber, maybe on a not as deep of a defense, but he did feel like he could be a rotational guy, specifically a pass rush specialist. However, they get him back onto the practice squad, and there's just another guy sitting there waiting. Again, they bring back Jordan Willis to a 1-year deal. Kemoko Turay goes to the practice squad. Like, let's go. That feels like a big win for me in regards to what this defense can pull from just from their practice squad alone. Also, cannot go throughout this whole list without talking about Marcelino McCrary Ball, who I think is also a very good addition to the practice squad. Another undrafted free agent linebacker that could develop, especially when you got Aziz Al-Shire, Dre Greenlaw, both in the middle of contract years. Who do they sign? Who do they not sign? Does Marcelino McCrary Ball potentially have an opportunity to have an impact in 2023? Not bad. I like his addition to the practice squad. Overall, I'm feeling pretty good about the way the roster is constructed. If you had to grade the 49ers practice squad right now, 1 through 10 on a scale of 1 through 10, what would you give the 49ers practice squad? I want to see what you guys say first before I give you mine. And again, I'll pull up the practice squad list just so you can see it. This is the 49ers practice squad. What would you 1 through 10, 10 being the best. 10 being the best. Being able to see players that could potentially play this year and or develop into the future. Peyton says 9. Jeremy says 10. Long Island Girl dropping an 8. My guy dropping a 7. Another 7. I like this one. Hopefully Don Burr's not in the chat because he might get a little spicy off this one. 49ers practice squad better than the Lions starters. Also, Nate Sudfeld signed with the Lions today. Nate Sudfeld signed with the Lions today. It's a Brock party out here, and apparently Nate Sudfeld wasn't invited. Oh boy. Mariah, shout out Mariah. She says 9. I think Mariah had like a 1-year celebration party or something like that. You got a bunch of 49ers content creators together. That's pretty dope. Shout out Mariah. Keep grinding. Mitch, 8. I don't mind it. 8. 6. 8 because of Willie Sneed. Ooh, Willie Sneed truther. 8. Tommy's not feeling the man bun. The man bun is waving to you, Tommy. The man bun is waving to you. Jesus says 8. 8. Mitch says, by the way, I think our only mistake was releasing Hasty. You could make. I like Hasty. I do. I really do like Hasty. But the argument for that is Mason is going to play Hasty's role. So in that regard, I can understand because we understand that Hasty was picked up by the Jaguars, and he will be on the Jaguars active roster. But if we're looking at the final 53, I really do think Mason beat out Trey Sermon just overall, but he also beat out Hasty for that third down hybrid special teamer role. Like I put out a tweet earlier where let me see if I can even pull it up. I put out a tweet earlier where it was like Peter Parker, when he becomes Spider-Man and his vision gets blurry when he puts on the glasses. Uh, I felt like when Kyle Shanahan, wakes up in the morning and he looks at his roster, he gets a little bit of this, gets a little bit of this vibes. Again, remember when Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man and he's looking through the glasses, you can't see. It's really blurry. When he takes the glasses down, he can see clearly. That's Jordan Mason. That is not Raheem Mostert. That that's Raheem Most. No, that's Jordan Mason. And again, I put it in the tweet. This isn't a player comp. It's not a player comp. In fact, it's kind of a usage comp because if you think about it, remember Raheem Mostert? Now, Raheem Mostert was a journeyman, right? He had gone through 6 or 7 teams before he landed with the Chip Kelly 49ers. He stuck around, but he stuck around in the sense of being a special teamer. So I do think that the 49ers will use Jordan Mason this first year. It's going to be a lot of Elijah Mitchell, a lot of Jeff Wilson. I think we're going to see TDP, but I think you're going to see Jordan Mason used in that special team type of role. Where did Raheem Mostert make his money? First of all, with the 49ers, he made it as a gunner on punt team. He made his money on special teams. He earned his spot on special teams. I think Jordan Mason brings that element. I think Jordan Mason could be he's not going to be as fast. So again, this isn't a player comp. It's not a player comp even in the slightest. It's the fact that he's an undrafted free agent, feels like his role primarily could be special teams early. And based on how he performs on special teams, it could elevate him into a prominent role with this team where, hey, Jordan Mason, maybe 2-3 years down the road, we are talking potentially as an RB1, kind of like Raheem Mostert rose to after time within the offense. So again, this isn't a player comp, not a player comp at all. It is just more like Mostert's undrafted free agent. Definitely had to make his money on special teams first. Now, it's not apples to apples. Clearly, Jordan Mason beat out Hasty and Sermon just for being a pure running back. Let's make that abundantly clear. Mason beat out Trey Sermon and Jermichael Hasty just for being a better running back. But all hands on deck. If you got good running backs ahead like Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, and TDP looked pretty good too, maybe you can see Jordan Mason on special teams lighting it up. So we'll see. We will see, but that's kind of how I envision this meme. That was my context behind it. But again, Jordan Mason stonks to the moon. Whew. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Mitch says, I was worried we wouldn't cut Mason Sermon, so I'm happy. I get it. It's a hard time for these players. So I had nothing against Sermon, and I'm not like cheering that he was waived or anything. Maybe there could have been more opportunities for him in the offense if given more time, but clearly he wasn't doing something that the 49ers wanted. The 49ers wanted him to be something much more than what he was. So they felt convicted enough to let Trey Sermon go. Basically, we all take L's in our lives. No one is undefeated except the Sourdough Squad. How could I even say that? How could I even say that? Not a lot of people are undefeated. but the Sourdough Squad is undefeated. Well, we'll say that. So this is a rare group, in case you haven't noticed. But in regards to the 49ers front office, they made a bad pick. Maybe there was a ton of Bobby Turner influence. I don't know. Old 49ers running back coach who's not there. I want to also point out that Jordan Mason is an Anthony Lynn guy. Jordan Mason is an Anthony Lynn guy, right? So we talk about the influence of Anthony Lynn. We've talked about way earlier in the year about the new coaching staff, new wide receiver coach, new running back coach, new tight end coach, new assistant head coach. Basically, Chris Forster elevated from just O-line coach to O-line coach and run game coordinator. Had a lot of changes in the coaching staff. Death taxes and SDS are all defeated. You love to see it. You love to see it. SDS makes the 53. And a new quarterback coach. You're right. So there's a lot of changes on that coaching staff. Lots of changes on that coaching staff. And I think, yes, he did. Yes, you remember what Anthony Lynn said about Jordan Mason. Anthony Lynn was hyping up Jordan Mason in OTAs. He said, Jordan Mason looks good now, but wait till Jordan Mason gets pads on. He said, wait till he gets pads on. You're going to see even a better player. So Anthony Lynn, 100%, great point, J-Tan, put his stamp on Jordan Mason. So that's what this feels like. This feels like a Jordan Mason, Anthony Lynn marriage. And guess what? Talked about it since day one. Anthony Lynn has had success with larger backs who can catch out of the backfield like Melvin Gordon. Jordan Mason is just like Melvin Gordon. I thought Trey Sermon could benefit. He didn't. I just think Trey Sermon is a slower processor. He's not as agile as Jordan Mason, and Jordan Mason proved that he was worth the gamble. And I think we're going to be really happy about it. I think we're going to be really happy about it when it's all said and done, for sure. And again, if you guys do have any questions, comments, drop them into the chat. If you have any feelings about any of the moves that the 49ers made, bring it up. We'll get you in here. Let's make it a little bit of interactive. The Bears got Leather Wolf. I see you corrected it down there, Jesus, but I really do like Leather Wolf a whole lot better. This may have to be his new name for us, especially because the San Francisco 49ers are headed up to Chicago week 1 on September 11th to face Leatherwolf and the Chicago Bears. So be careful out there. Leatherwolf out here is going to maybe have a resurgence up there in the north. Maybe. Leatherwolf in the doghouse. Leatherwolf doesn't have that. Ooh, we can't even call him Leatherwolf. He doesn't even have that dog in him. Dang. I don't know. It's questionable. I think it's questionable. We'll see. But the Bears claim Leatherwolf. 49ers head up there week 1. We're almost officially to week 1. I still consider that we are in week 0. So I still think there's some time ahead of us in regards to discerning what ultimately week 1 and when week 1 will be. But I'm pretty excited about it because the 49ers are going to be headed up there to the north with a pretty fire offense when you think about it. Trey Lance is going to get the start. Trey Lance is going to get the start. I get it. I get it. Jimmy Garoppolo's back, but he hasn't been in meetings. Doesn't even have a playbook, but apparently neither does Kyle Shanahan, so not a big deal. Trey Lance is going to be the starter. You got Elijah Mitchell tied. I don't think RB2 is going to be Ty Davis-Price. I'm going to be bluntly honest. I think the RB2 on the 49ers is going to be Jeff Wilson. Peyton says RB1 is Jordan Mason. But I do think also too Jeff Wilson, he looks back. Like he looks like he's all the way back. And when Jeff Wilson is all the way back, you got one of the his vision and the way he can make it work with jump cuts and stop cuts. And like, I'm telling you, even last year when he was still trying to get his legs under him, he wasn't getting a whole bunch of running lanes. Jeff Wilson still showed he had the vision. This year, I think Jeff Wilson shows us that he's all the way back. And I'm looking forward to it. I think Jeff Wilson, I'll say it right now. I think Jeff Wilson is a little slept on, especially by this fan base. Maybe by me. Maybe I need to hype up Jeff Wilson more. But I do think El Jefe is a little bit slept on. So they got Ty Davis-Price up here. I don't think it's Ty Davis-Price. I think it's El Jefe. I think it's a lot of Elijah Mitchell and a lot of El Jefe. And I think El Jefe is going to be pretty damn good, especially if he's got to avoid contact in a hurry. I think that's one of Wilson's best attributes at the moment. But look at those wide receivers. Do you guys feel, and again, this is fantasy. I want to make that crystal clear. Like, we're looking at a fantasy ranking. So fantasy doesn't follow always like the natural order of progression of the way football is seen or what being good in football is. But Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, do we think Danny Gray is worthy of that wide receiver 3? Maybe. I think Danny Gray, I'll say it. I really do. After watching training camp, heading out, heading down, or not down, but heading up to Eagan, Minnesota to watch joint practices, it really did feel like Danny Gray had a better training camp, even preseason, than Juwan Jennings. But remember where Juwan Jennings was successful last year. If we go back to last year, do you remember where he was successful? He was successful on third down. He was successful on base down as a blocker. He was successful in the red zone. So might not be a volume play in Juwan Jennings, but I'm still holding out hope that Juwan Jennings shows up in those 3 areas. If Juwan Jennings shows up in those 3 areas, blocking on base downs, which we need, especially on the outside, especially with outside zone, blocking on base downs, third downs, red zone. If Jawan Jennings can be a factor in those 3 areas, it's going to be a good time. And then Brandon Ayuk, I think no, not Brandon Ayuk. I think Danny Gray can be that guy who works on like a third down. Oh, in the sense of having to stretch the field. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait. I can't wait. Can't wait to see it all. But Danny Gray has shown a ton of promise. I really like what I've seen out of Danny Gray. And then, of course, Greg. Yeah, Greg down there. Just being Greg. The long hair and the ginger beard. Looking handsome as all hell. Look at Greg, man. Look at Greg. Does Greg bounce back this year? Does Gregory, does he have the potential to put up 1,100 yards? Maybe even 1,200 yards? Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what Greg does. You know what I can bet on, though, from good old Greg? He will be doing Greg things in the run game. He will be blocking. He will be doing all of that. So definitely looking forward to seeing what he does. But will be interesting to see if he can crack that. I think so. Let's ask you, because I don't know, but do you think George Kittle cracks 1,000 yards on the season? Because to Harris's point, it all depends on how Shanny uses Greg. If it's up to Shanny can scheme up Kittle to 200 yards a game with his eyes shut. But we also understand he doesn't do that all the time. It comes in bunches sometimes. So we'll see, man. I think he could. I think he should. 100%. 100%. So what do you guys think about the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation? As now that you've had more time to think about it. I feel like as a fan base, we've been able to kind of feel better about the Jimmy Garoppolo return with him coming back on a massive discount. If the 49ers want to go out and trade for someone, if they want to go out, I don't know, they want to go sign. There's some decent free agents out there. Hell, I could even pull up the list. Why not? There's still some free agents out there. The 49ers have money now. They didn't have money for a while, but now they're able. Oh, I want to bring in one of these guys. Can we bring in AB for the culture? But so there are some of these guys out here. I don't know if really any of these names really move the needle. I've always kind of like had a soft spot for Landon Collins. I don't know if he fits with the type of defense that we run. Maybe convert him to linebacker. Maybe, I don't know. That'd be cool. I've always liked Will Fuller, but we understand he's super injured. Should we just get super crazy and bring in OBJ, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, OBJ? Probably not going to happen. A couple years too late. You got Sue over here. I don't know. I don't think any of these names really move the needle. But hey, guess what? 49ers have money to do something if they want to. We'll see what they ultimately land on. But we'll see. Overall, I feel pretty good about this roster. Not just pretty good. I feel really good. I think, the offensive line is continues to be a mystery. Clearly, with the addition of Blake Hance on waivers, so they opted to keep. So now they have 10 offensive linemen. That's a lot. Like that never happens. Never. Like you never, ever on an NFL roster see a team carry a full set of backup offensive linemen. Never. 49ers kept 8 last year. That's 3 backups to replace 5. This year, you've got 5 starters, 5 backups. That's rare. It's rare on the active. You don't see that a whole lot. Does that mean maybe not as confident in that offensive line unit up front? Maybe. I don't know. But I think the 49ers understand that if we're being objective, again, I have more confidence in the offensive line than most, but I think we also understand we don't know with Mike. I love Mike, and I think Mike has a potential to have a great season if that knee calms down. Feels like that knee is angry at him. Feels like the knee is like, oh, like it's just angry, like it's flaring up and stuff. And I don't want him to push it too hard because I kind of felt like he did in training camp. I don't know. It's pure speculation. But, I saw him working through it the day that he took himself out. And he kept himself in when it was visibly bothering him. And I know how offensive linemen think. Like, I'm wearing an offensive lineman shirt. I played offensive line, not nearly at that level or even close, but you are wired to work through pain. You're just wired that way. Like, especially Mike, who's been dealing with this knee issue for long before it occurred. As he told us, he was dealing with a knee injury for like the last 2 years, but it finally popped on him before or during that week 9 Arizona game. But he had already injured that knee in training camp. And he had been playing all season on that injured knee. And then it finally gave. So he's wired to play through injury. My biggest thing is just I hope that he can get as right as possible. I think it was a good move to kind of pull him out and let that knee calm down a little bit because I saw enough from Mike in training camp. The speed is there. He continues to improve as a pass blocker. He still has it as a run blocker. Just let the knee calm down a little bit. So it was a quad tendon, but I think it started at the knee, if that makes sense. So it was a quad tendon that almost tore. He said it was a 95% tear, but it, I think, has translated into overcompensating, and especially at the knee. So just want to make sure that he's right. But if he's right, I've got full confidence in Mike. But just got to make sure he's right. Trent Williams, we know what Trent Williams is. But now you got Colton McKivitz, Jalen Moore, Daniel Brunskill, Nick Sikel, this new guy, and one other that I'm blanking on. But we're going to see who's going to get it done. I don't know why this comment struck me so much, but I appreciated it. But we'll see, man. The offensive line, and again, you look at the guy that they brought in. He played tackle last year, but he's played center. He looks like an interior offensive lineman. I'll say that. When I look at Blake Hance, he screams interior offensive lineman to me. I feel like I have a pretty good radar with that. Like when I see, like again, I'm that guy that everyone was telling me, oh, Jalen Moore is a guard. I'm like, he is not a guard. Nothing about Jalen Moore is a guard. Is probably one of the things that he struggles with the most is run blocking. And you got to be able to run block if you especially are an interior offensive lineman. I didn't see it. They still haven't put him there. He's still a tackle and he's struggling with tackle, which is the position he's played his entire career. So again, I feel like I have a really good radar for like position, like for offensive line, being able to identify their traits and be like, oh, that guy looks like a center. It's one of the first things we said about Nick Sakel when I think I saw 3 clips of him, like he looks like he could play center, even though he was a left tackle at Fordham. So we look at all these different types of things. I look at this guy, Blake Hance, he's playing tackle. He doesn't look like a tackle. He looks like a guard or he looks like a center. He looks like a Colton McKivitz. I don't think Colton McKivitz is a tackle. I think Colton McKivitz is a guard, but they need him at guard and they need him to play there. So they put him there. He's capable. He does well. He's good enough to get the job done, but it's not a natural fit. It's not a natural position. So when I look at this Blake Hance guy, yes, he's had experience at tackle, but he does look like a natural guard. So it's going to be interesting to see what they ultimately do with this offensive line. And I think we could all agree it's kind of the one position group that feels a little shaky, at this point. Uh, but they haven't had a lot of continuity either. So I think it's going to be one of those things like we saw last year where it took some time. They got up to speed and then got the job done as the year progressed. It was, Brunskill didn't have a good start to the season. He was a little shaky. Even, guys like Lakin and guys like Alex Mack, they were good, but they had their moments. So I think it will just take some time, allow them to develop and see what they got. But I'm excited for this year, excited for what's to come, and all that good stuff. Uh, Probably a good time to bring it to a close today. Shout out all the SDS out there continuing to rock with the content. Appreciate you guys as always. Every time you like, comment, engage anything on one of these videos, it's greatly appreciated. And we appreciate all the Sourdough Squad. So we appreciate you guys. We'll be back doing we're gonna do State of the Franchise tomorrow with the Jason Aponte. And so we're gonna get Spicy Aponte's take. I asked Jason last week if that was going to be the last time that we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. I was like, I got to ask you about Jimmy because it might be the last time we actually talk about him on the roster. Well, it's definitely not going to be the last time that we talk to Jason Aponte about Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. So definitely looking forward to that situation and seeing what we get from the Spicy Aponte as we continue to move forward. So appreciate you guys as always. Hit that like button on your way out. You already know the vibes. Also to hit that sub button. We appreciate you. And for now, we are out.